Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning into another Super Tease video, and I've been having so much fun on Frost Mage. This specialization is really winning my heart, and I've been playing some forbidden tech, some talents that nobody else plays. They all think that are terrible, but I have been having an absolute blast, especially in solo shuffle, and that secret forbidden tech, the spell that shall not be named, is Snowdrift, which is this AoE effect on the ground, which builds up into a stun similar to a deep freeze and has been enabling me insane win conditions and powering up a lot of my spells like Ray of Frost and Ice Lance. So at the start of the game on my Frost Mage, I love tossing my Frozen Orb immediately and using the instant cast Blizzard. This is going to give me a ton of damage and it's going to reset the cooldown quite rapidly. You want to be sending your cooldowns almost as soon as possible due to things like shifting power and Blizzard ticking back things like your Frozen Orb and just all of your spells like shifting power. So I'm trying to dump my flurries, use all of my Ice Lance procs, get my Icy Veins on cooldown as soon as possible so that I can then access shifting power to reduce all these cooldowns. I'm looking for an opportunity to Ray. I love starting a Ray of Frost and then blinking away from interrupts and out of line of sight with Shimmer. This is a really good way to get a lot of effective damage. I bait kicks with Ring of Fire, tossing that down to try and pressure enemies away from where they're standing. We've got the Monk in a good position behind the pillar. We're going to dump a Ring of Fire and go for that Snowdrift. We get him stunned behind the pillar. We force his trinket. If he doesn't trinket there, he's going to take tons of Ice Lance damage, tons of Ring of Fire damage. Now that we've got his trinket, we can knock him far away and start kiting towards the center of the map. You want to run into corners, stack people up when you have Snowdrift available, and then in between you want to be pulling them out in the open and trying to fish for crowd control if you can, but I'm mostly looking for just overall raw damage. I really just like doing DPS as much as possible on my mage. You're going to get a Frost Nova here on the Windwalker when he gets a paralyze on the healer. I see the Paladin get knocked out into the open, so he's either going to be a really good sheep target or a really good swap target. We end up altering back. We're still trying to find it. We can catch him out in the open if we get it. But now I see my Monk in a stun. We could be in a bit of trouble. We're getting stacked up. Frozen Orb, Blizzard. We're going to go for Snowdrift. It's unfortunately DR'd with a Cap Totem, but regardless, it forces him to use Diffuse Magic. And it's really, what it's done is enabled me to feel kind of like a carry. Previously to using Snowdrift, it felt like you're just kind of padding the meter and hoping that your team can stay alive. But Snowdrift gives you a win condition because it just basically makes all of your spells crit. It's like the old school Deep Freeze. It feels as strong. And in solo shuffle, players just do not know how to play around it as well. So it's been really fun to exploit in solo shuffle. Here we got some distance. They're stuck in the middle of the map, so we're going to toss down a Ring of Fire and try and pressure them away from our ally. Drop down Blizzard, try and get that Frozen Orb reset as soon as possible, as it is really important to reset cooldowns as much as you can. Knock the Monk off the side with the Blessing of Freedom. Go for Frost Bolts when we don't have Flurry procs, and then when we get a Flurry proc, immediately start chucking out those Ice Lances with the buff damage. You can get a double Snowdrift, Frost Nova, hold them in place, Cone of Cold, trying to proc stuns, double stun. We can cleave them down with this. It feels really strong when you get a double stun like that, but now they're turning it around. We're getting stunned up. We're going to trinket out of that Dragon Roar. We should likely alter time here. I think it would be a really good time to do it. I'm not seeing myself do it in the replay, but altering during their most powerful offensive cooldowns and blinking away is a really good way to negate it. We blink through, drop a ring, and then displace back through the ring so that the enemies that chased us, that thought they avoided it, are going to have to go through it again and get CC'd. We alter now here, blink into the middle of the map. We're on top of the Paladin. Unfortunately, there's a Frozen Orb here, and it will break polymorph, so you need to be careful about this when you're playing your Frost Mage. Don't sheep the healer when they're standing in Frozen Orb or in Blizzard. You're going to have to wait for that to be over or knock them out of it. Now they're out of the Frozen Orb. We're immediately going for a polymorph, going for a Ray on the Cap Stun. They're locked away with that Lightning Totem, and going for Ray when the healer is CC'd. And you can stun the target you're hitting. It's going to be like the most ideal situation. That gets Karma. Now we're jumping on top of the Paladin. And this is something really cheeky that I love doing, is going on healers. So you get a 4-second stun with that and a bunch of Ice Lances. And if they don't have a cooldown, you can pretty much 100-0 almost any healer in that Deep Freeze by yourself, especially with Ray. But even with Ice Lances, it still feels really strong. So making those kind of fun swaps onto the healer, it really opens up a lot of playability. And you're not just tunnel vision in one strat. Here we get the Windwalker out in the middle of the map. So we're just blasting him. We get a lot of his defensive cooldowns. We're going to swap off those defensive cooldowns. I see the Paladin getting kind of low in the back. Going to poke him with a couple Ice Lances. He's down at 20% health. Swap back to the Evoker. Wait for those defensives. Nova the Monk. Get him under control during this time because he's going to be taking less damage. There's no point really focus firing him. We get an Icy Veins, Frozen Orb in the middle of the map. Dropping down the Blizzard. We got Snowdrift coming off cooldown. I really want to get on top of them here for this one. We're going to get a Snowdrift rolling on the Dragon. He blinks away from it. We paralyze the Paladin. And the Paladin is so terrified of Snowdrift that I'm pretty sure he bubbles before the effect even goes off. I've scared so much out of this poor Paladin that he's actually using Divine Shield before the stun has even happened. He's so terrified of how much damage that it's going to do in this position. Shifting power, we're resetting our flurry charges, getting our ice barrier, and we just blink back in the middle of the map and quick little snap onto the Windwalker, and he's going to fall over. And you can see that we pretty much had control of that game for the most part. I'm still pretty new to Frost Mage. I'm getting almost up to 2400 with these strategies though, even still being new to it. So I wanted to share this video with you and what's been providing me success and what's honestly just been really fun to play. We're gonna jump through the waiting room here so we can get right into the gameplay here for this round. It's just been really fun. I have to say, like, I love the different spells of magic, the knockbacks, the control you have, Dragon's Breath, Ring of Frost. You can play for damage, you can play for CC, you can flex between the two. You're always trying to min-max and play for actions per minute. It's got such an expansive kit to it that, like, I got to recommend it. That's why I'm making this video. Like, I want to show you what I'm doing, what's going on, and why it's so much fun. So here in this game, again, we want to get that Frozen Orb on cooldown as soon as possible, get the instant Blizzard out so that we can start resetting those cooldowns and start feeding our Ice Lances and really start ramping up our damage. We get the double stun here with the healer stun, so we're just spamming Lances, going for a Snowdrift onto the Shaman here, but it gets Revival immune, so we're pretty sad, but they walled anyway, so it's not really a big deal. There are going to be cooldowns that can negate your Snowdrift. I kind of pre-altered here during that dragon fly through, so just they wouldn't want to attack me. You got to be a bit careful with pre-altering against evokers though, because they're going to use instant cast Fire Breath. If they're running the purge talent, they'll purge your altar. So it can be really difficult. You got to kind of like blink through them when they're going through the dragonfly, so you can avoid getting purged by the Fire Breath that they do at the end of it. Definitely something to look out for. We go for Hammer of Justice here onto the Shaman. We don't really have CC on the Mistweaver, but the monk's just attacking him, ends up kicking him. So I sheep the augmentation, go for a Ray. Unfortunately, it gets interrupted halfway through, and it does more damage the longer it lasts. So it is such a tough ability because you want to put it on cooldown as much as possible because it does so much damage. But if it's interrupted, it does nothing. So finding that perfect window where you can connect array uninterrupted as frequently as possible is going to be the biggest challenge of this specialization. We're going to drop a ring, and we're going to start zoning the enemies when they're turtling. This is another fun mechanic of the class. We can push forward now with ring blocking the left side, ring of fire blocking the right side, fire and ice here, working together. Drop a Frozen Orb Blizzard while they're stacked up. Go for a Snowdrift, mash out these Ice Lances, get the Shaman's Trinket, just keep going with so much damage. We stayed on him long enough. We actually proc Snowdrift twice. So we got the first stun for 4 seconds, the second stun for 2 seconds. And it's just something that players don't really expect because nobody plays this. But I found it, especially in Solo Shuffle, but if you're playing with an Affliction Warlock with UA Dispel to cover the Dispel of the Stun, it would be really powerful. But in Solo Shuffle, it's just been absolutely a blast to play with, especially on maps like this with Blade's Edge where everybody's always stacked up. Here we got them stacked up on the side, so great time to drop a ring, whether it's Ring of Frost or Ring of Fire. Just get some AoE effects, pressure, zone control, force them and flush them out of where they're hiding. So we've got them Frost Nova. We'll drop a ring around all of them. We could drop a Ring of Fire on this, but I think I go for a knockback to knock them into it just because it feels cool to do that. We get a Polymorph onto the Mistweaver in the backline. You got to be careful about Ice Lancing a target next to a crowd control target because with this build, your Ice Lances will cleave. But I go for Ray, and I look where I blink. I blink all the way back upstairs to avoid being interrupted, and that's what I mean. Finding those little angles where you can start a Ray and blink out a line is going to be the best way to guarantee that you get it as frequently as possible. So now in this position, we got a ton of damage. We're going for Snowdrift. We get a stun over onto the Shaman. Windwalker's pressuring the Augmentation Invoker. We force the wall from the Shaman. We're going to go for Shifting Power, reset all of those cooldowns that we just used. Ray and Snowdrift are going to be the most important to reset, but if you can't get Ray on cooldown, don't worry about it. It's better to reset your flurries so you can get instant cast damage and keep your pressure going and keep your damage as high as possible. Here the Evoker's doing a lot of damage to our allies. We're blinking down on top of them, trying to get them crowd controlled and blinking in and polymorphing and trying to control them during that fly through. You really want to spam polymorph during those high burst moments from classes, and the augmentation flying through the sky is the most obvious one. Here we get a little swap over the Mistweaver Monk. You just want to always keep your eyes on a swivel because really any target can be a good target. You don't want to just tunnel vision CCing the healer only and doing damage to DPS, especially if you can get a Snowdrift on the healer. Here we get a double Frozen Orb, Snowdrift over on the Shaman, over on the Augmentation Invoker. They're pinned in Blizzard. They're just getting cleaved by Ice Lances and Icicles flying onto both of them. And when that happens, man, it's just an absolute party. On the Frost Mage here, I block offensively. Could end up costing me, honestly. A bit risky to block offensively. Would not necessarily recommend that. I got a little bit ahead of myself in this position, but we got Icy Veins up in Ray, and Ray does more damage with haste. So timing it here with this would be excellent if I could start a Ray and then blink out a line. So I start a Ray, blink under the bridge, and pew, 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 pew. pew, force him to burrow, almost take him down. And it's finding those angles, man. As soon as you figure out how to find those angles, start array and blink behind a pillar, you're gonna be doing so much damage. And now we got a Snowdrift. Shaman's got no trinket. He gets stunned up on his Aura Mastery, and we're just spamming Ice Lance, just 60k, 60k, pop, 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 pop. We get a Flurry proc throughout all that, which is gonna reset another 2 Ice Lances. We can kick his off heal. We've ran the Mistweaver out of mana. We paralyze him. I'm still just chucking Ice Lances at this guy. It honestly feels like Cataclysm Frost Mage, and that's like one of the most fun iterations of Frost Mage, if I'm being honest. And we're just cleaving him down. Mistweaver pokes his head up. We're gonna just quickly snipe him there and take him out. It's an absolute blast. Like you gotta try Frost Mage, and especially in solo shuffle with the Snowdrift. I think with an Affliction Lock, it could be really good in 3s as well. But other than that, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Quick little deep dive on the Frost Mage, things that I've been liking about it, and share some intel of the talents linked in the description. If you like this type of content, make sure to smash the subscribe button. If you're kind of checked out of WoW, it's a good idea to smash the subscribe button anyways, because you might get some tabs and something piques your interest in the future, as I do my best to relay you guys with the news and changes related to the game in real time. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.